Today at the studios of WWJ.
What are you using for a microphone?
Oh, there's plenty.
Can you pick it up from that distance?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Beautiful. Can I
Yeah.
use swear words?
We can't bleep them out.
Oh, then I'll use them. Okay.
And today is the 28th of April, 2005, and we're talking with Sonny Eliot. And I'm Bill Villano. I'm with the Ypsilanti Rotary and with the Veterans History Project. And we wanted to talk with you today about your experiences. And as I said before, I know a whole ton about you, and you have 586 places on the internet where you're...
I have.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. You're
God.
getting close to 600.
Really? Why? Why would anyone want that?
Oh well, they're...
I'm delighted. Print them all. Send them to me quick. I want to know what I'm doing.
But you know, you're a personality here in this area, and I must admit, I've been here since '77, and
Oh, practical child.
yes, I know that I know you from television. I know you from your zoo shows and so
You know
on.
me from the telephone calls you've made trying to set up this meeting.
Yes, I know that too. But I want to be able to have something so that people might be able to understand you, understand the war, understand POWs and so on.
I would like to know someone who understands war. I do.
Well, that's true. Yeah. You were in during a difficult time. I know you joined right after high school.
Yes, right after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Remember Pearl Harbor?
I sure do.
It surprises me the number of people who don't
I
know.
do, yeah.
They think I'm talking about Pearl Schwartz or something like that, but Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
The day after, a friend of mine, Al Malinoff, and I immediately said, we've got to get into this war quickly because it's only going to last 3 or 4 weeks. The Japanese, they make little tin toys. They don't know how to fight. We have a vaunted navy. We'll get in there and fight them. So we went downtown really into the federal building in Detroit and enlisted on December 8th, which was a Monday. And they made us come back later on. Anyhow, it all evolved. And within the next 3 months, we had to take exams so that we wanted to fly. And I had to take the exams so I could get into what was then the Army Air Corps. And it was an intelligence exam. Somebody must have made a mistake because I got in. And I went into the Army Air Corps, and Al Malinoff went into the Naval.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And within 3 months, I was in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh.
Not Fort Worth, what am I talking about? San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, I know San Antonio.
Kelly Field now.
Yeah.
And started
Spent all
my
my
training.
military career there.
At Kelly Field?
Well, in San
Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brooke
sure.
Army Medical
And
Center.
the Blackstone Hotel. I remember one girl named there,
No.
Aunt Lib's Bertha, that's right. I remember her. We called her Lincoln. Everybody took a shot at her in the balcony. It was wonderful. Anyhow, from there on out, the usual people who got in early. Of course, it lasted more than 3 or 4 weeks.
You got into the B-24s.
Yeah, after the training, the primary, the basic, the advanced training in the Army Air Corps, and then I was assigned. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but the need was for bomber pilots at that time, and so you went where you were sent, and I was sent to B-24 school at Davis Mountain Air Base in Arizona, Tucson, and that's where I got my training in the B-24.
Did you fly your own plane over to England?
No. It originally started, I was assigned to the Pacific, where the B-24 was doing very well. And for some reason, I guess it was not the Ploesti raids, although that was it. It was I forgot the raid now. When you get to be 38, your memory. Anyhow, they took our airplane away. We were going to fly it to the Pacific, and they needed the airplane, didn't need the crew.
Huh.
And so they took our airplane and we took all our stuff and went back and we put on the Queen Elizabeth and shipped to England and assigned to the 8th Air Force. And from there on out, it's, as they say, history.
History, yeah. You were in the 8th Air Force?
8th Air Force.
Yeah.
General Doolittle was my commanding officer, amongst others. And it was a most interesting part of my life that I certainly would not trade anything for. It was an amazing part. And it gave me great feeling of contribution.
Yeah. And you did contribute a lot.
Well, I don't know about contributing a lot. I did what all of us did. No heroism there. The real heroes are still buried over there. They're the real heroes, well, as you know that. So, and after several missions, unfortunate, we were shot down over, we were bombing a town called Gotha, G-O-T-H-A, in the central part of Germany. And over the central part of Germany is another little town called Kassel. And over Kassel we were flying, and ME-109s and a series of FW-190s came in and shot us down. Well, shot us, and I made it just to the bomb, the town we bombed, Gotha, and we dropped our bombs on both. And at that time, the airplane was burning too bad. We all had to jump out, and it's not very habit-forming to land in the town you bombed, which is what happened.
Had you jumped before?
I'd had a malfunction of the B-24 over the mountains of California. Inyokern, California is the closest town. We all had to bail out from that airplane and lose the B-24. Spent a little time in the hospital with that, but that wasn't much. Recovered, and yeah, no, that was the second time I bailed out to.
And you landed in the city that you just bombed?
Yes, non-habit forming. People just are not very friendly there if you bomb the city and then land there.
Your plane was called Dooley Squat?
Yeah, we got a brand new. Well, that was my expression. I don't know, from high school days, what's it worth to you? Well, it's worth doodly squat. Wasn't worth much. And then my crew and I got together, and some of them wanted to name it after their wives, and some of us wanted to name it after the flying elephant, which we called the B-24, the flying boxcar. And Dumbo seemed like a good, that would be a good one, big flapping wings, which is what a B-24 had. And I said, no, I'm captain of this crew, I'll call it the Doodly Squad. And we all laughed and said, to hell with it, name it whatever you want. And we never got around to painting a name on the airplane.
Oh,
So it never had the name.
Well, you had,
on.
as I recall, you had 14 missions before you were shot down.
Well, not quite that many, but I tell everybody a whole bunch so that they're impressed.
Yeah, well, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'll bet. But the missions all run together, and you'd go on many missions for which you don't get credit if you stand. The part of the training in England when you first got to the 392nd Bomb Group was to stand between the seats on a raid with a couple of seasoned pilots. Pilot and co-pilot. You'd stand there so that you could see what they were doing, so that when you finally got up there. And I flew several missions that way. As the captain of the crew, I wanted to be, how to get out of formation if I had to, how to peel off if I had to, how to close up so that attacking planes. And we were, the first thing you learn is anybody points their nose at you by a fighter plane, pointing, shoot at it. And many of the American over the channel would come in to join the formation pointing at you. And I'm sure that many of our American planes were shot down.
You mean the American fighters?
Your cover would come in, but you didn't know who they were. And so the order went out that all fighter planes who were flying cover would come in and flash their wings so that you could see the insignia on the airplane. And that we didn't have much cover over once we got past the English Channel into the early part of coastal part of France. And from there on out, we were on our own. But this is back in the early days when the P-51s came in and they had a great deal of range, and P-38s came in and they had a great deal of range. Then the flying bomb group was covered more adequately. But when I got there, it was too damned early.
Yeah, the P-51s especially had longer range.
Oh, they had the range that could take you in and bring you back. I never had that. I never saw a P-51 while I flew. We were shot down on February 24th, 1944, which was one of the biggest raids of the war at the time. We got a presidential citation for that particular raid. And as I say, you don't land in the city you bomb. That's not very smart.
They were pretty hostile, sure.
Oh, of course, and who wouldn't be?
Yeah.
When you look back at it, of course you didn't understand it at the time. Don't they know they were at war? Why should they mad at us? We're just the fighters.
Yeah, right.
But yes, they were very hostile. And I think we would be too.
Did you find were you captured by civilians, by soldiers?
No, I was captured by, well, I bailed out, and my crew, who bailed out at different times, or even bailed out at the same time at the speed we were flying, we were strung out 20 miles or so, and so everybody landed in a different area. My co-pilot and I landed pretty close to each other, and I landed in a farmer's field. Field with snow, had to be about 2 feet deep. It was February. It was a bright sunshiny day, I remember that. And I remember hanging in my chute and having this Focke-Wulf unter den 90, FW-190, come slinging by shooting. I didn't know if he was shooting at me or shooting at something else, and I didn't care. I just closed my eyes. And landed in the farmer's field where I'm sure a gentleman farmer wearing what looked to me like knickers and a sport coat and a foulard tie, carrying, I don't know what he was carrying, but quickly behind him was another person who was dressed in, looked like green dungarees is what it was. It must have been the village idiot, and he had a .22 rifle. And
the other guy didn't have any weapon?
Not that I remember. I tried to remember why well, he never got close to me. And I didn't have my sidearms. I didn't carry my .45 that day. So it was a good thing. I would have shot back and so on and so forth. I landed soon enough so that I could look to see where the barn was, go into a barn and hide. And when I got to the barn, the doors were locked. They apparently locked all that. Plus the fact that my chute opened, I was traveling at a pretty good speed, and when it snapped my shoes came off. And I was wearing high GI boots. So I was barefooted, and socks, of course. And then the village idiot with a .22 rifle came up, and a .22 rifle, the bore looks about 4 inches when
it's pointed at you.
When it's pointed that close to you. So. And they ran me into the town of Gotha. Of course, I had the usual wounds. I had a leg wound and a back wound, and no shoes, and bleeding, and scared to death. Just scared to death.
How old were you then, Sonny?
11. Wait a minute, I'm 38 now. I was 4 years old at the time. Early 20s, of course. But enough to be frightened, and it all has an unrealistic kind of condition.
Did they cart you off to a prison camp?
No, not right away. They took us into the town of Gotha and took us to the mayor's house, which was the most unrealistic of all, because the house had flags with the swastika on it. They had pictures of Hitler. It's like they took it out of a movie set. Where's Errol Flynn when we need him? You know, that kind of thing. And they threw us into the basement where they kept all kinds of junk in a little room. My co-pilot and I, my co-pilot named Belden Blake. Then they brought the townspeople around to look at the terrorfliegers. We were called terrorfliegers, terror flyers. And one man brought his 10-year-old son around to look and see what the terrorflieger looked like. And my co-pilot trying to, hello young man, speaking English of course, and good to see you, and held out his hand to shake, and the old man reached out and punched him, pow, right in the face.
Oh, yeah?
Whereupon a guy behind me thought it was a good idea, so he punched on me. I didn't say anything. And we stayed there for, no food, no water, no toilet. It begins to fade now. It's been 2 or 3 years since this happened. And then they took us to a little town of Erfurt, beat out truck. And that was the amazing thing. We'd never seen a truck run with they burned coal for fuel.
Oh, for
Yeah, and that, I didn't know much, but that's the way they got the fuel from. And they drove us to Erfurt, where we were there interrogated once again by various soldiers. And it's at that point that I guess you call them the brown shirts, came in, the ones with wearing the armband with the swastika on it.
Where were they?
Prior to that, they I assume were part of the Gestapo. I don't really know. Prior to that, we'd been handled by the ground troops, the German troops, and they tried to find shoes for it, but they didn't find any shoes. And they took us to this little town of Erfurt, where I saw the very first jet plane flying overhead, and we thought, my God, an airplane without an engine, and it's flying. Anyhow, that's been quite some time ago.
That was in 44?
Yeah, 44. Wow. And they herded us all together, and they talked to us, and they asked questions and so on. It was not very formal. Then they herded us all onto a truck and drove us to Frankfurt on Main, Frankfurt, Germany, where we were now put into solitary confinement in various barracks. And that's an entire experience all over, which you don't want to go through all that nonsense now, but that's where the Red Cross came in. It's been now about, since the day we were shot down, at maybe 10 days, 2 weeks maybe. Hadn't had a decent meal, hadn't brushed your teeth, hadn't done anything for 2 weeks.
But you were able, the Red Cross was able to get to you at that
The
point?
Red Cross, when we got to Frankfurt, the Red Cross was there, and I will forever be indebted to them. They gave us a little suitcase and had toothpaste and pajamas and comb and shaving stuff. And then we were fed some food. And then finally we got to Frankfurt, where they, as I say, put us in, each one of us in solitary confinement. Don't know how many solitary confinement cells they had, but I was in one for several days. And that was an interesting experience too, frightening.
Nobody to talk to?
No one to talk to. If you had to go to the bathroom, you pulled down a string and it lifted a little lever in the hallway, and a German guard came in with a rifle and took you to pee. Or you peed in your pants or in a corner of the thing. The window let the light in, but no, you couldn't see through. It was an opaque. And during the day, they would apparently run the heat up, and you'd perspire, and all you're still wearing your flight suit. It was hot, and at night they turned the heat off. It froze your ass off, and it was a maybe 4 or 5, 6 feet by 8 foot cell kind of thing. Several days in there, you lose track, and then they would take you out and interrogate you. Then you'd go into a little office about the size of this room, and there'd be a German officer there, all spiffed out, looking once again like in the movies. And he would say, first thing he says is, hello, and I'd say, hello, willen Sie das jetzt durch? And I said, yeah. Shouldn't have said that. He asked me if I wanted to sit down. I said yes, because I understood him. And that's where they were testing to see, did you speak any German? So I sat down, and then he says, for you, of course, the war is over. And that was an expression you heard over and over and over again from wherever you went or wherever you were with. Any German, you said, for you, the war is over. And you know damn well it is. And then the interrogation took on a more ordered interrogation.
I was reading something where they knew your group, they knew your squadron,
Yes,
they
they
knew
told
your
me, you're
seal.
Captain Schoolmaster, you're commanding officer, yeah, and we know you are over near Norwich, and we know this and we know that, and I don't know how he got the information.
That's what I was wondering, how'd they get this?
I have no idea, and I made believe I didn't understand a word they said. I didn't know anything about, I don't know who is it, I don't know where. And the class ring that I had should not have been worn. And as a matter of fact, it was against the rules of combat to wear anything that identified. But I don't know why I was wearing my graduation ring, and on the inside it had my name, so they knew who I was, which I gave them anyhow. I gave them the name, rank, and serial number, which is all you're supposed to give them. And that's all I kept answering. And they thought that perhaps I was amongst the group who flew over those long-range bombers that came from Boston to Germany in one flight. Yeah, sure. I just laughed at that, and they knew that. But that went on several days, same interrogation.
Did they really think there was a long-range bomb?
I have no idea. They were trying to get whatever your reaction was, I guess. I didn't know. And after, I think, about 10 days of that, why, they put us on a train and took us to Berlin, and Berlin up to Barth, Germany, in a boxcar. Boxcar with, I don't know, 20 guys in half a boxcar or more, and 3 German guards on the other side, and a wood-burning stove in the middle, and the rifles, and you know, like Errol Flynn. And John Wayne, where are they when you need them?
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Anyhow, and that basically is all. The experiences in the camp are well documented in the, I think I've told the story over and over again. I would like to do what some of the people who came back, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. Bullshit, I wanted to talk about it, tell everybody what went on. But this has been many years.
Were you able to talk about this with your family?
Certainly, of course. They tried to be, and like stories, you know. They don't want to bring back the terrible memories. Well, of course you want to tell them, get them off your chest. And nothing that they could say, my family and my friends. Whatever they want to know, I told them. Not many of them wanted to know anything. Was it tough? I said, yeah, they used to beat us with a barbed wire fence twice a day, you know, that kind of thing. What could you tell them? Of course it was at times very tough, but at times very restful, and at times completely boring. It depended on what you were doing and who you were doing, and I was fortunate enough to have enough background in entertainment that I put together skits and shows, and we would go into
where'd you get your background in?
Well, in high school, I used to belong to the radio unit there, and, and I had a brother-in-law who was, good old Beb, who would coach me, and I had all these things. Plus, I paid attention to and enjoyed, and it was the heyday of radio comedy at the time. You know, Eddie Cantor, and anyhow, it was an interesting experience for the several months that I spent in captivity. And the last maybe 6 months of the captivity, it began to get tough because of food. The Germans themselves weren't eating, and that was good. Starve the sons of bitches. We don't care. But we were starving too.
In addition, the war was getting close to them.
Yes, it was, and of course, in the prison camp we had tremendous number of talented men who could do things with their hands and their minds, and they could do things, and they built radios, and they did this, and we traded with the German guards, and there were some guys who spoke enough German to trade with the German guard, and we had radio, and we listened to Lord Haw Haw, the turncoat from the British, and we would listen to a radio, secret radio. The closest we came, I think, to get an idea of what a barrack looked like and what went on, perhaps, is the movie Stalag 17 was pretty close. Had it not gone into a story form, but it was just we had that, and we had many suspects. They were getting information we don't know how.
Oh,
From, yeah. Didn't know how they got this information. Perhaps one of the guys in your room said he was shot down in Ploesti, maybe. I don't know. Have no way of knowing, and they talked just like us, or came from these, and perhaps you let things drop that you don't want them to know about, as in, once again, the story in Stalag 17, which is and the feeling of The Great Escape, another movie. I relate to those because it's easier than trying to explain what went on and what looked like. And it's pretty much old hat now, and many, many years ago.
well, maybe old hat to you, but you know, to a lot of people it isn't, especially the young people.
I don't think the young people, I don't think they can relate to it. They can't feel it, they don't understand it, they don't want it, they don't, it's either romanticized or politically taught to them to be something so terrible that they cannot understand it. I don't understand it myself oft times, but it's an exercise in futility to explain it to someone who's never been there.
After, what, 18 months in prison?
No, not that long.
No?
Close to, I guess, 17 and a half. Well, I call it a year and a half and let it go.
All right.
I don't know if it was that or not.
Suddenly the Germans left?
Yeah, we got up one morning. Of course, we kept track of what had happened. D-Day. I became the wealthiest man in my room. I was in Barak 3, Raum 11. I was in Barrack 3, room 11. And we all had a pool. We started the pool, I guess, near the end of the year. And we would get Red Cross parcels, of course, and they had a little 5-pack, 5 cigarettes. And we hoarded those. They became the medium of exchange, money. And we all chipped in cigarettes every week to see, everybody guess, when will D-Day? When will the Americans land on French or German soil? When will they come? And I picked June 6th.
Did you?
Yeah, I won something like 2,000 cigarettes. I was the wealthiest man in the barrack. Oh, I won all those cigarettes. And all
Did you
the little
smoke?
things. Oh, yeah.
Everybody smoked.
That's right. I didn't smoke those. I used them to buy off. Some guys hoarded little pieces of chocolate. You give them 3 cigarettes and you had a piece of chocolate. You had to clean out the room. Everybody had to at one time sweep out the room or do the dishes or help cooking or try to scrounge some vegetable or something. Had a big room there filled with rutabagas. I can't eat rutabagas to this day, but that's what we had to eat. I would buy them off. I'd say, I don't want to sweep out the room today. Here's 4 cigarettes, and the guy would do it for you. So for a while, I was very wealthy. And then when it was gone, I returned to being a nobody again. Wealth is power, as you know.
Yes.
Cigarette wealth, too.
You were listed as a Lutheran.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was captured, Germany certainly didn't want to be anything but Lutheran. And when they had the interrogation, I had no dog tags. Dog tags came off me when I bailed out with this tremendous wind. Apparently it tore off. I have no idea what happened to them, so the dog tags had no religion on it. I had no dog tag. And when they asked what religion I was, I immediately said, Protestant, yeah. Lutheran, yeah. Okay, I figured Martin Luther had an in there somewhere. And that's why they got that. However, on the, once again, have no way of knowing. After we were released from, when they got up the morning of, when the war was over, and we went into the front office of the German high command at the camp. I went through the file quick to look for and I took out my pictures. I think you got a picture of it there in one of those stories.
Yeah.
The Wayne State story,
yeah.
The magazine's got a picture of the card. And across the front of it, it's written, Juden. Right across the word Lutheran.
So they knew you were Jewish all
Yeah,
along?
so that's why we know somebody somewhere in the barracks, somebody somewhere in the camp had given them that information.
Mhm.
How else would they know? I didn't tell them.
Yeah. They,
But
they were taking a lot of prisoners that were Jewish, and many who they thought were Jewish, and sending them to Berga. Have you ever heard of the?
yes, we heard about that. As a matter of fact, in our camp, I forgot the month, the day, the time, but there was an order out, all Jewish prisoners, and those who looked Jewish, those who were in the shower and looked circumcised, they put them all, put them all into one barracks in the North Compound at that time. And Jack Lessenberry, who did the story in this Hour magazine, he says he's got proof that Himmler came to the camp and then wanted all the men exterminated. Not all the men, all the Jewish. I wasn't swept up in that group that was sent to because at that time, apparently they didn't know.
They didn't know, yeah.
And I went to the chaplain there, Catholic chaplain, Father Charlton, red hair. He was captured in Dunkirk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he'd been there several years. And I said, Father, I don't know what to do with it. Should I tell I am and go? He said, shut up, get back in the barrack, keep your damn mouth shut. I said, that's good enough for me. I went back in the barrack and kept my mouth shut. So Father Charlton advised me correctly as far as. But the several hundred of them who were herded into a separate barracks and isolated them once again, as the German propagandists did throughout much of the 30s and 40s. Anyhow, that's all that happened there. And then, of course, the war came to the Russians broke through from fighting all the way they fought. I don't think they changed their underwear from the time they left Moscow. And so the trains were disrupted and they couldn't transport anybody from our camp anywhere. We were close to a town called Stralsund and close to a town called Stettin, the Polish corridor up there, and the Russians broke through. And so they locked the Germans in. They couldn't transport any of our men from camp anywhere. Prior to that, some prisoners had come in from Stalag 3, Sagan, the story of the Great Escape where they killed so many of them. That was from Stalag 3. I was in what? Stalag 1. Now we always go to the top. Yeah.
Did you have to wait till the war was completely over in order to get back to England or
Oh,
the US
yes,
or wherever?
yes. When the war ended, we were told everyone revert to rank. They retained their rank while they're in prison camp. But then, when the Russians are the ones who released us. They tore down the fences of the Stalag Luft 1, and everybody just took off wildly, trying to get to where they were going. I'm sure a lot of them were killed just trying to get back to the American lines. And I and some of my buddies, we ran into the little town of Barth, which was where Stalag Luft 1 was located, Barth, and ran into the Russians, and the Russians said, get back in the camp. They wouldn't give us food. They didn't have any, from what I gathered. They lived off the land, a motley crew. And so it was about 10 days later, after experiences getting back into camp and reestablishing rank and so on and so forth, and discipline, then they flew in B-17s, which was a slap in the face. We were B-24
You guys were liberators.
They could have flown in a Piper J3 Cub. I'd have flown that son of a bitch out. And we went to a little airfield that was right at Barth there. There was also a concentration camp there, wherein I saw something I will never forget. The camp. That's one that you don't want to talk about because it breaks me up when I think about it. It's terrible. Anyhow, they flew the B-17s in. We got on the B-17s and they flew us to Rouen in France, where they cleaned us up and gave us pants and shirts, no uniforms, pants and shirts, and a first real meal that we had, chicken. The guys ate so much of it they got sick and so on. From there we went to Le Havre, where they had special camps set up, and the camps were all named after cigarettes. Camp 20 Grand, Camp Chesterfield, Camp Lucky Strike, and they were designed to maintain several thousand soldiers awaiting shipment back to the United States.
Which one did you get in?
Yeah, I went to Lucky Strike, of course.
Of course, yes.
And I spent about a week there, and it was terrible. They were just not set up correctly, and the food was bad. The outhouses were bad. They didn't even have round outhouses. They had diamond-shaped sea outhouses. And this one guy was a little older than us, and he knew. He said, let's get out of here and go to Paris. I'd love to go to Paris. He said, well, follow me. And I said, well, I got just a shirt and pants and a little helmet liner. No, come on, we'll hitchhike. And that's what we did. We hitchhiked all the way to Paris. Got to Paris and went to same base headquarters, told them we were prisoners of war, this is how we're back. And he said, well, Eisenhower says that you can have $175 and we'll give you that and you get a uniform and you stay put you in the Red Cross Club and you wait there and we'll ship you to someplace.
Ship you back to Lucky Strike?
I don't know where they would ship it, but we got the $175 and I went and bought a uniform so I could feel again like an officer. And when I ran out, the $175 lasted about that long. Oh, I said, well, at same base headquarters, they have another base on the other side of the Seine. I said, let's go over there. And I went over there and told him my name, and I'm a prisoner of war. And he said, well, okay, you're entitled to $175. He gave me another $175. I said, that works fine. That lasted about 3 days. I went back to the first one. I said, my name is Lieutenant Edwards. And I needed $175. I went back to the other one. My name is Lieutenant Fisher, and they gave me another $75. I kept track of it like a dumbbell. Dumbbell because when I got back to the United States after the war, I got back home. When I went in, they asked if I'd received any money. And I said, yeah, I received, and I kept track of it. I had, I don't know, 10 or 12, $1,700, $1,800 that or 2,000, whatever it was. And they said, okay, we deduct that from the money that we owe you when you were a prisoner of war. And if I'd have kept my mouth shut, I'd have had that enough for buying them. Anyhow, I paid it back. So I really didn't steal it. And I had 6 of the most glorious weeks of my life in Paris.
You were there for 6 weeks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Back and forth, $175. And met all kinds of people and found people to stay with. And had a marvelous time. And then I ran into an old buddy, an old flying buddy. I said, what do you do? You're flying courier from Paris to London. I said, well, let's go to London. I've been here 6 weeks. Got on board. Flew me to London. I went to London. We went through the whole same thing again. Only in London they were smart. And they did the thumping. I got $175. That's it.
Yes.
I ran out of money in London after a couple of days, and then it was sponged off some people there and so on. Finally wound up in Southampton, and that's where we waited for transportation back to the States. And I've got my whole life ahead of me.
Yeah. How'd you get back? By boat, I'm assuming?
Yeah, boat. A seaplane tender. It was a Navy boat. The USS Albemarle. Isn't that funny? After all these years, I remember the name. And when you get to be 38 years old, you forget names.
Forget a lot of things.
Albemarle. I did a couple of shows on board. It was a 9-day trip across the Atlantic. And we lived like the Navy lived. It was...
It took you only 9 days to go back?
Yeah, from Bath, England to... I guess we went to Norfolk. Norfolk? I think that's where we went to.
Talking to so many people who said it took them 30 days to get back, or
well, it took us
forever.
Well, I'm talking. We were released from prison. What was the end of the war? It was May, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, May. I didn't get back to the United States until the end of September. So it took more than the trip across the Atlantic was only 9 days.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Came back to Detroit?
Came back to Detroit. And then went to New York. I wanted to get into show business in Detroit. I really did want to. And I made the rounds in New York, stayed there with a friend of mine for several months.
George, you
and auditioned for several Broadway shows, and almost got a part in Harvey, auditioning for and making the rounds. And finally just got tired. It'd been too long. Had I stuck it out, I was making inroads, and I'd get a shot here and a shot there, and that kind of thing. Enough. I was tired now.
Did you?
I'm putting on weight now. I didn't weigh too much when I got out of prison camp. The last 3 or 4 months of prison camp was, you didn't have much to eat. You lost weight a lot. And you lost your weight, and you checked how much you were losing, not by your biceps, but by your testes. When they shrank the size of peas, you know you're hungry. Yeah, we used to put a little stone under your tongue to keep the moisture.
Yeah.
But and so I had enough of, and I made a lot of friends in New York, and still do like New York.
Yeah.
I got back to Detroit, and my father had a hardware store, and I worked there for a while I went to Wayne University. And you're up to date. Now from there on out, it's...
The rest is history.
Well, I don't know about that. No. But I've talked enough.
Yeah, and you have to go pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't know what else, unless there's anything specific you might want.
No, I was certainly interested in the fact that you had some skits when you were in the prison camp.
Yes.
The Little Theater off Times Square.
Yeah, that was written by a fellow named Nelson Giddings. Marvelous guy. He died just 3 months ago out in California. He wrote many movies. The Andromeda Strain, a movie.
Oh, is that right?
He wrote that. He wrote I Want to Live with Susan Hayward. He wrote 10 Days of Ramdan or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He wrote all. And he would call from time to time.
So you kept in touch with some of these?
Yeah, just kinda.
Oh.
And always threatened to come out there, and he'd put me in movies, and I was doing well here, and to hell with it. And another guy, I still stay in touch with one fellow named Norman Dale Stuckey. I talked to him, and he was in our barracks in my room for all the years that we were there, and we became friends. Anyhow, in camp, Nelson Giddings would write, and I would write, and then we'd have some other people, a guy named Donald Pleasance, who was a well-known actor who, once again, they're dropping all around me. He died just a short while ago, too. Donald Pleasance. I remember in the picture, The Great Escape, he was the one who lost his eyesight.
Oh, yeah.
That was Donald. And we would do skits, and we would convert the mess hall into a little stage. We'd do shows, and I would write shows and do comedy, and got to be fun there until the camp kept expanding. When I got into prison camp, the population was, I'm told, I don't know this, 1,700 or so. When I left a year and a half later, it was up to close to 8,500 prisoners. Wow. So you didn't know everybody after a while. It just expanded.
When you came back to Detroit, you worked in your father's hardware store for a while.
You should have known my father. You'd have loved him. Delightful man. And my mother was, you can't get better parents. Just marvelous. And of course, my sister Anna, who raised me, who recently died. Everybody's dying. Have you noticed that? How old are you then? You just say, Bill, easy, take it easy. Don't touch me.
Your parents were told that you were missing in action.
Yes, got a telegram the usual way.
And then the postcard, is that the typical postcard that the Germans allowed you to send out?
They could let you, they would give you that. And it was handled through, once again, Red Cross and YMCA. They were the ones who oversaw it and saw that the Geneva Convention was applied. which was much better than their concentration camps. This was a prisoner of war camp, and they oversaw it. So we're told. We're talking to a little grease at the bottom of the wheel, me. I didn't know much of the hierarchy.
So after New York and after the offers of California and everything else, you still thought that this was the place for you?
Well, you find that after whatever happens, wherever you go and how popular you are, or how successful you are, or how poorly you're doing, you want to go home eventually.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's what happened. I just wore out. I should have stayed another 6 months in New York. I'd have done what I always wanted to do, get a part on a Broadway show.
Mm-hmm.
I should have stayed because some of my friends did make it there. But coming back here was no mistake.
No, sure.
No, and Thomas Wolfe, who said you can't go home again, I was glad to come home again.
Sure. Well, I tell you, this has been a great experience for
I know,
me.
but it has been very enlightening. Bill, you're very kind.
It really is. It's as I say, I've known you. I kind of known you since I got here in '77.
And now you want to buy back your introduction. Well, that's a good go.
No. And it's been great. I know you have to get off to.
Yeah, I've got to go write my ad-libs now for
Yes,
my
okay.
4:00 show.
Right. Okay. I appreciate your time. Appreciate all that you've done. Thank you.
You got enough on that camera?
I got enough.
Really? It's running on those 4 little batteries? Probably stopped 20 minutes ago.
No. Oh no. It's hooked up into the electric plug there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
We got 47 minutes of tape.
Yeah. Listen, when you transcribe that, send it to me.
I will.
I'd like to see what the hell I said.
This is what we're doing. We're putting them on DVDs, and I'll send you as many as you want.
No, just one or two would be enough.
Oh, okay, will do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bill, thank you.
It's great knowing you and
Well,
great
I don't know
finally
about
meeting
that.
you.